anniversaries are measured in years. Others are measured in memories. As conversations begin once again around what would have been the 45th anniversary of the wedding of King Charles III and Diana, Princess of Wales, people across Britain find themselves reflecting on one of the most influential and heartbreaking stories in modern royal history. It is a story that forever changed not only one family, but also the relationship between the monarchy and the public. Recently, dramatic online headlines have claimed that Prince George did something at a memorial for Princess Diana that left Britain in tears. The story spread rapidly, prompting emotional reactions and renewed discussion about Diana's enduring legacy. But before we continue, one important distinction must be made. There is no verified public report confirming that Prince George made a widely documented appearance or gesture at a memorial that matches these viral claims. As with many royal stories circulating online, speculation has often traveled faster than confirmed information. Yet perhaps the real mystery is even more compelling. Why does the mere suggestion of a connection between Prince George and his late grandmother, whom he never had the chance to meet, capture the imagination of millions around the world? Can a legacy be passed from one generation to another without shared memories? And how does a young future king grow up carrying the hopes, expectations, and history of a family whose most emotional chapters continue to shape public life decades later? This is not simply the story of a royal anniversary. It is the story of love and loss, of duty and remembrance, of a monarchy constantly balancing tradition with change. Because sometimes history is not preserved by monuments alone. Sometimes it lives quietly in the values, choices, and character of the generations that follow. And to understand why Prince George's future is so closely linked with Princess Diana's extraordinary legacy, we must first return to the remarkable story that changed the House of Windsor forever. Every royal generation inherits more than titles. It inherits stories. Some are triumphant, marked by coronations, jubilees, and moments of national celebration. Others are deeply personal, shaped by heartbreak, resilience, and the quiet determination to move forward despite extraordinary loss. To understand why Princess Diana's memory continues to resonate so powerfully, and why Prince George's place in that story fascinates so many, we must first return to the beginning. On July 29, 1981, the world watched as Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer were married at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. The ceremony was described by many as a fairy tale wedding. Streets overflowed with cheering crowds. Millions gathered around televisions across continents. For Britain, it was a day filled with optimism, as a young couple appeared ready to lead the monarchy into a new era. The grandeur of the occasion reflected centuries of royal tradition. Horse-drawn carriages rolled through historic streets lined with Union flags. Church bells echoed across London. Every carefully choreographed detail reinforced the continuity of the crown, reminding the world that the British monarchy represented something far larger than any one individual. Yet history often reminds us that public celebrations reveal only part of a story. Behind palace walls, Charles and Diana faced pressures few couples could fully understand. Every appearance became front-page news. Every gesture invited interpretation. Every personal challenge unfolded beneath the constant attention of the world's media. Royal historians have frequently noted that modern royal life requires an unusual balance between public responsibility and private identity. Members of the royal family live under extraordinary scrutiny while attempting to preserve ordinary family relationships. That tension became increasingly visible during Charles and Diana's marriage. As years passed, differences in personality, expectation, and circumstance became impossible to ignore. The couple eventually separated, and their marriage formally ended in divorce in 1996. For many people, it felt like the end of a dream, but an even greater tragedy was still to come. In August 1997, Diana's sudden death shocked the world. The emotional response was unlike almost anything Britain had experienced in recent history. Mountains of flowers surrounded Kensington Palace. Candles burned throughout the night. Strangers comforted one another in silence. The grief extended far beyond the United Kingdom. People who had never met Diana mourned her because they believed she had changed the image of royalty itself. Through her work with children, hospitals, landmine awareness, and humanitarian causes, she had shown a more personal and compassionate side of public service. For Princes William and Harry, however, the loss was not symbolic. It was deeply personal. The image of the two young princes walking behind their mother's coffin remains one of the defining photographs of the 20th century. It reflected an extraordinary combination of duty and unimaginable personal sorrow. Those experiences shaped William in profound ways. As he matured, observers increasingly noticed qualities that seemed to reflect both of his parents. From Diana, many saw warmth, empathy, and an instinctive ability to connect with people from every background. From Charles, many recognized patience, discipline, and a lifelong understanding of constitutional responsibility. Together, those influences helped form the public figure William has become. Then, years later, another generation quietly entered the story. Prince George. Born in 2013, George arrived not simply as the eldest child of William and Catherine, but as the future of the monarchy itself. From the moment he was introduced to the public outside St. Mary's Hospital, comparisons began almost immediately. People searched his expressions for traces of William. Others thought they saw echoes of Diana. Still others reflected on how each generation inevitably carries pieces of those who came before. Unlike his father, George has been raised within a royal family that has learned many lessons from history. William and Catherine have consistently worked to provide their children with as normal a childhood as possible while preparing them for extraordinary future responsibilities. Public appearances have been carefully limited. School life has been prioritized. Family moments have often remained private. Royal commentators frequently observe that this measured approach reflects William's own childhood experiences. Having grown up beneath relentless media attention, he has often emphasized the importance of protecting his children's privacy whenever possible. That philosophy has shaped George's early years. When he does appear in public, whether during Trooping the Color, Christmas services at Sandringham, Platinum Jubilee celebrations, or other official events, he is gradually introduced to royal life rather than immersed in it all at once. Each appearance becomes another small lesson. How to greet crowds. How to observe national ceremonies. How to understand the symbolism surrounding the crown. Yet perhaps the greatest lesson cannot be taught through ceremony alone. It is the understanding that monarchy ultimately depends upon service. Every future sovereign inherits constitutional authority, but they must also earn public confidence through character, consistency, and dedication. That is precisely why Diana's legacy remains so relevant today. Although Prince George never knew his grandmother personally, her influence continues through the values that William and Catherine have repeatedly emphasized: kindness, compassion, respect, and a genuine interest in helping others. These qualities are not inherited automatically. They are demonstrated. They are practiced. They are passed quietly from one generation to the next. As the anniversary of Charles and Diana's wedding invites reflection, many people naturally think about what might have been, but they also think about what remains. A family shaped by triumph and tragedy. A monarchy adapting to changing times. And a young prince growing up beneath the weight of history while representing its future. The remarkable thing is that George's story is only just beginning. The expectations surrounding him will continue growing with every passing year. One day, he will study the history that shaped his family not merely as a student, but as the future king. And when that day comes, one question becomes impossible to ignore. How does a young prince honor a grandmother he never met while preparing to lead an institution she helped transform forever? The answer may lie in moments far quieter than the headlines. Moments that reveal how memory can shape the future without ever speaking a word. History has a remarkable way of revealing itself in quiet moments. Not always during grand ceremonies. Not always beneath the glittering chandeliers of Buckingham Palace or the pageantry of a state procession. Sometimes, history speaks through a pause, a thoughtful glance, or a simple act that reminds an entire nation where it has come from. That is why so many stories continue to circulate about Princess Diana and the generations she never had the chance to see grow up. As the anniversary of Charles and Diana's wedding invites fresh reflection, countless articles and social media posts have speculated about how Prince George might one day honor his late grandmother. It is important to separate those stories from verified events. There is no confirmed public record of Prince George making a dramatic appearance at a Diana memorial that left Britain in tears, despite the viral headlines. Much of what has circulated online blends imagination with genuine public affection for Diana's memory. Yet the emotional power behind those stories reveals something real. People continue searching for signs that Diana's legacy lives on, and many believe they can already see it, not in a single ceremonial gesture, but in the values being passed from one generation to the next. Imagine Windsor Castle on a quiet afternoon. Away from the cameras, it is less a symbol of ceremony than a family home filled with routines familiar to any household. Children complete schoolwork. Parents discuss schedules. Staff prepare for the next official engagement. Within those walls, Prince George is not simply learning history from books. He is living inside it. Every portrait hanging in the corridors tells the story of monarchs who faced crises, celebrations, victories, and loss. Every room carries echoes of decisions that shaped Britain across centuries. For George, these surroundings are ordinary, yet they are also extraordinary. His father understands that better than anyone. Prince William has often spoken publicly about preserving his mother's humanitarian values rather than focusing solely on public remembrance. Throughout his work supporting mental health initiatives, homelessness projects, conservation, and emergency responders, many observers have noted echoes of Diana's deeply personal style of public engagement. She believed that compassion should be visible. William appears to carry that belief forward. Those lessons inevitably influence George. Children often learn far more by watching than by listening. When George observes his parents greeting volunteers, speaking with families facing hardship, or thanking charity workers, he witnesses an understanding of royal duty that extends beyond ceremony. It becomes something deeply human. Royal commentators frequently describe William and Catherine's parenting philosophy as one grounded in balance. The children are introduced to royal responsibilities gradually, but they are also encouraged to appreciate ordinary experiences. School, friendships, sports, family holidays, community activities. These moments help create perspective. One day George will wear a crown. But before that day arrives, his parents appear determined that he first understand the people the monarchy exists to serve. That philosophy reflects lessons learned across generations. Queen Elizabeth II often emphasized service above self. King Charles has spent decades promoting charitable causes and environmental stewardship. William has expanded those ideas for a modern generation, and George now grows up observing each of those examples. It is a chain of influence rather than a series of isolated events. This becomes especially meaningful whenever the royal family participates in commemorations. Whether attending Remembrance Sunday services, national Thanksgiving ceremonies, or important anniversaries, younger members quietly observe traditions that have connected generations of Britons for centuries. Silence becomes part of the ceremony. Respect becomes part of leadership. Memory becomes part of identity. Many historians argue that this is how institutions survive, not by forgetting difficult chapters, but by acknowledging them while continuing to move forward. Princess Diana remains an important part of that story. Her charitable work transformed public expectations of the royal family. She embraced causes that many public figures rarely discussed at the time, including homelessness, HIV, AIDS awareness, and the campaign against landmines. Her willingness to meet people with warmth and empathy changed perceptions of what modern royalty could look like. Today, many observers believe William continues aspects of that approach. His public engagements often emphasize listening before speaking, connection before ceremony, action before publicity. If those qualities become part of George's future leadership, Diana's influence will continue, not because of dramatic memorial gestures, but because her values quietly endure. Perhaps that is the real legacy, not one unforgettable headline, but thousands of small decisions made over a lifetime. The anniversary of Charles and Diana's wedding reminds us that history is rarely simple. It contains moments of celebration, moments of disappointment, moments of profound sorrow, and moments of remarkable resilience. The royal family has carried all of those experiences into the present day. As King Charles continues his reign, William prepares for the responsibilities that await him. Behind him stands George, a young prince watching, learning, and slowly discovering what it means to inherit not only a title, but a history unlike any other. One day, Historians may look back on this generation and conclude that Diana's greatest legacy was never confined to photographs, memorials, or anniversaries. It lived on through the character she helped inspire, through the son who transformed personal loss into public service, and perhaps, in time, through the grandson who will one day inherit the crown. But before we reach that chapter, one final question remains. What does Diana's enduring legacy truly mean for the future of the monarchy? And how might Prince George's generation redefine the crown for the decades ahead? When historians look back on the British monarchy, they rarely define an era by a single headline. Instead, they ask deeper questions. Which values endured? Which traditions adapted? Which leaders understood that the crown is not simply inherited? It is earned through a lifetime of service. That may be the lasting significance of this story. The anniversary of King Charles III and Princess Diana's wedding is not merely a date on a calendar. It serves as a reminder of one of the most influential chapters in modern royal history, a chapter filled with hope, disappointment, transformation, and ultimately, an enduring legacy that continues to shape the monarchy today. Although viral headlines suggested that Prince George made a dramatic public gesture at a memorial that left Britain in tears, there is no verified public evidence confirming such an event. Yet the popularity of those stories reveals something important about public sentiment. People continue searching for Diana's influence, not because they are trapped in the past, but because they believe her compassion still has the power to shape the future. In many ways, that future is already taking form. King Charles III has approached his reign with a focus on continuity. His decades of work promoting environmental sustainability, interfaith dialogue, architecture, and charitable causes did not begin when he became king. They represent a lifetime of preparation for a role he waited many years to assume. His reign has emphasized stability during a period of significant transition. Standing beside him, Queen Camilla has gradually established herself through consistent public service. While debates surrounding the past remain part of royal history, her official role today is defined by constitutional duty and charitable work rather than historical controversy. History often becomes more balanced with time. Prince William represents the bridge between today's monarchy and tomorrow's. He belongs to a generation that understands both the weight of centuries-old traditions and the expectations of a modern public. His leadership style has often been described as thoughtful, approachable, and deeply influenced by personal experience. The challenges of his childhood, including the loss of his mother under extraordinary public circumstances, shaped his understanding of empathy and resilience. Rather than allowing those experiences to define him, William has transformed them into a commitment to public service. His work on homelessness, conservation through the Earthshot Prize, emergency responders, and mental health awareness demonstrates a monarchy that seeks practical impact alongside ceremonial responsibility. Beside him stands Catherine, Princess of Wales. Throughout years of public service, she has become one of the most respected members of the royal family through quiet consistency rather than dramatic headlines. Her focus on early childhood development, family well-being, and community engagement reflects an approach centered on long-term change rather than short-term attention. Together, William and Catherine are preparing not only for future kingship, but also for parenthood under extraordinary circumstances. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis are growing up in a world fundamentally different from the one William experienced. Social media, 24-hour news coverage, and instant global communication have transformed public life. Yet William and Catherine appear determined to preserve something increasingly rare: a childhood. By carefully limiting unnecessary public exposure while gradually introducing royal responsibilities, they are giving their children time to develop as individuals before asking them to shoulder the expectations of the crown. That balance may become one of William's greatest contributions to the future monarchy. Because leadership is not created overnight. It develops through observation, through example, through values demonstrated consistently over many years. If George one day becomes king, as the line of succession currently indicates, he will inherit more than castles, ceremonies, and constitutional responsibilities. He will inherit stories. Stories of Queen Elizabeth II's unwavering devotion to duty. Stories of King Charles's lifelong preparation. Stories of Prince William's resilience. and stories of Princess Diana's compassion that continue inspiring millions nearly 3 decades after her passing. Perhaps that is Diana's greatest legacy. Not simply that she changed public perceptions during her lifetime, but that her example continues, encouraging future generations to see leadership through the lens of humanity. Kindness, compassion, listening, respect. Those qualities cannot be written into constitutional law. They cannot be placed inside royal jewels or engraved upon palace walls. They must be practiced every day. As this documentary reaches its conclusion, one truth becomes increasingly clear. The strength of the British monarchy has never depended solely upon crowns or ceremonies. It has depended upon each generation's ability to preserve timeless principles while adapting to changing times. The story of Charles and Diana reminds us that even the most celebrated moments can contain hidden struggles. The story of William reminds us that profound personal loss can become a source of purpose. And the story of Prince George reminds us that the future is always being shaped quietly, long before history officially records it. Perhaps one day George will speak publicly about the grandmother he never knew. Perhaps he will honor her legacy through service rather than speeches. Or perhaps the greatest tribute will require no words at all. If he leads with compassion, humility, and a genuine commitment to the people he serves, then Diana's influence will not simply be remembered. It will continue living through the generations that follow. And in the end, that is how the most meaningful legacies endure. Not through sensational headlines, not through fleeting moments of public attention, but through values passed from one generation to the next, quietly, faithfully, and with the hope that the future can always learn from the past. If this documentary helped you see the royal family through a deeper historical lens, we'd love to hear your perspective. Do you believe Princess Diana's legacy continues to influence Prince William and the future king, Prince George? Which royal value, duty, compassion, resilience, or service do you think will define the monarchy's next generation? Share your respectful thoughts in the comments below, because every opinion adds to the conversation. If you enjoyed this premium documentary, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next in-depth royal story. Thank you for watching and for joining us as we explore the people, traditions, and defining moments that continue to shape Britain's royal family. We'll see you in the next documentary.